Hello, hello.
Welcome back to Creeps and Coffee, show where we talk about creeps and coffee.
Are we rapping now? Is this how we welcome in the new year, with a rap?
Oh, I was gonna rap Eminem. I don't want to do that though. I don't want to embarrass myself
That's
like that.
fair. She can do it though. I have heard it.
Not well, but it comes out of my mouth.
There you go. It's one of your...
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this episode.
I am excited.
Actually, we're angry about this episode. Should we get into it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think rather than yap in the way that we do, I think it's about time we jump into one of the most famous cases out of the U.S. Let's talk about the West Memphis 3.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Jane, and this is Creeps and Coffee.
A show where we talk about the dark parts of the world around us.
Cryptids, conspiracies, things that go bump in the night.
And the crimes behind the scariest creatures of all, humans.
Join us as we take a look at the stories sure to give you the creeps.
Pull up a seat, grab a coffee,
and let's have a chat.
May I start with a small anecdote before we get into facts?
Please do.
I already mentioned it to Caitlin prior to us recording this, but this was actually the case that got me into true crime. I first heard about it in my law class in high school, and it stuck with me so much that I was like, should I be a lawyer?
The answer to that was no.
Should I go to law school?
The answer to that was a hard no.
Well, I learned that I enjoyed it, and I really liked criminal law, but your girl doesn't like confrontation, doesn't like public speaking, is scared of crowds, so it just turned into a true crime interest. But if anyone involved in this case wants to be interviewed, you know where we are.
They're not listening to us.
You never know. You never know. But I just want to say, yeah, this case means a lot to me, and I feel very emotional towards it.
This is your Dyatlov pass, I think.
Oh my god, it is. You're right.
Yeah. This case is one of, if not the most prolific case to come out of the U.S. I think for all of the media attention that it drew, it might not be one that people necessarily immediately think of. I feel like if you ask people about true crime cases, they think of, like, your Jeffrey Dahmers, your Ted Bundys, John Benet Ramsey. But even if it's not one of the first to come to mind, when you tell people about the West Memphis 3, it's something that they've heard, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
People felt very strongly about this case, and it really brought attention to miscarriages of justice in the justice system in the U.S., and even more so to how bias can really come out. And there's some interesting juxtapositions between this and, like, the attention that this got and the lack of attention that some other cases got, which, again, we'll talk more about when it comes to injustices and kind of delve into that. But there are a lot of moving parts to this case. So all I can really say is buckle up.
Yeah, because my gripe with it is that everything was handled wrong.
Mm-hmm.
By everyone involved. By the police, by the jury, by regular people involved. It was so misconducted. It wouldn't stand today.
No.
It wouldn't even make it to trial because of, anyway.
I think to properly understand where the media attention comes from in the case of the West Memphis 3, it's obviously important to start with the actual case at hand. While we will go through some of the details of the murder and of the crime at hand, I go through this spiel every true crime story we do, but with this one especially.
There's some graphic stuff.
And at the end of the day, it's important to remember that this is not a fictional story. This is not, as much as Hollywood has made its buck off of it, the lives of 3 young children were viciously ripped from them.
Children.
And while we can learn a lot from this case and how it was handled, it's not a story to be told for gory entertainment purposes. This was the lives of 3 little boys that were taken very viciously. So if we're looking at the crime, this crime in particular took place in West Memphis, Arkansas, on May 5th of 1993. It is here where 3 boys, Steve Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers, would decide to go play in one of their favorite hangouts, a place called Robin Hood Hills, which just seems like the epitome of, like, where little boys should be playing in my brain. Like, go play Robin Hood, go do all these things. The 3 of them were best friends. They were Cub Scouts who loved the outdoors. So their request to play here was not unusual by any means. And this was also considered to be a generally quite a safe area. So no one really batted an eye at what was going on. So the boys were last seen around 6:30 p.m. when one of their parents dismissed them, called them for supper. They said they were going to play. And we will talk about that parent in the future as well. But last seen, 6:30 p.m. When they didn't return as night fell, their parents began to worry, as one absolutely and quite obviously would. A search began among friends and family, and then police were called in to aid in the search. Mark Byers, the father of 8-year-old Christopher, told reporters that none of the boys had ever run away or acted up like this before. This was not something that was a typical occurrence, and that he was, and I quote, scared to death. Unfortunately, despite searches going on, it's nighttime. You're not really going to be able to see much without the proper equipment there. A real search wouldn't begin until the following morning. The following day, May 6th of 1993, after doing a full search with the police and the community involved, a parole officer named Steve Jones noticed something was floating in the creek by Robin Hood Hills. He realized that it looked like a young boy's sneaker, and he went in to take a closer look. And it was then that he accidentally got his foot caught along what would turn out to be one of the bodies of the young boys. A subsequent search of the rest of the area revealed the bodies of all 3 of them. The boys had been stripped naked and hogtied with their own shoelaces, their right ankles tied to their right wrists behind their backs, the same with left arms and legs. Their clothing was found strewn around the creek and the ditches, some of it twisted around sticks, and the clothing was mostly turned inside out. It's important to note that 2 pairs of the boys' underwear were never recovered, but sexual assault is not believed to be a factor. Christopher Byers had lacerations to various parts of his bodies, including what they believed to be bite marks and mutilation of his genitals, with some claiming that this was a result of deliberate action. This would, however, later be brought into question. There are, unfortunately, plenty of recordings and videos of the parents finding out, of the investigations going on. I can say that, in general, I think it's a very disturbing thing to witness a parent realize that their child has passed. But I can also say now, as someone who is expecting a little boy, hearing these mothers realize that their child has been murdered is it's one of the hardest videos I've ever had to watch. Like, they were, rightfully so, destroyed by this.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, there are also several videos of the bodies of the boys that are available on the internet.
I have not watched those.
I have not. I will warn people. So we'll talk more about pop culture and influence of the media and everything later. There were, I believe, 3 movies released about the West Memphis 3. The Paradise Lost movies. Within the first 30 seconds of Paradise Lost, you see the video of the boys. So if you are planning on watching any documentaries or watching anything about this case, I do want to give fair warning about that, because that content is there. It is very disturbing. Autopsies found that Christopher Byers had died from multiple injuries, and that the other two boys had died not only from multiple injuries, but also from drowning. The investigators did a luminol test on the ground. They also looked for any drag marks or anything that could indicate that the boys had been murdered at a different location and dropped here. But there were no track marks, which indicated that the boys were likely attacked and murdered at the same spot that they were found. Immediately, police thought there had to be more than one killer. The knots were tied differently for the hog tie for each of the boys. And it's also important to point out that, yes, they are small. They were 8 years old. But controlling 3 individuals, 3 bodies, is not a simple task for one person to do. So in all likelihood, it pointed towards the idea that there was more than one killer.
I believe that.
I think that, and this is gonna sound pedantic. It's gonna sound like we're like oversimplifying things, but if maybe somebody had told the police this, it might have helped in the long run. But I think a piece of evidence like that, sure, I'll give it to you. You know? That's something that we can, if we're playing a video game, you can add that to your notes. That's pretty important things to notice. It's a difficult thing to do all by yourself. It could have been done, absolutely, but it's a very difficult task.
Yeah.
Rumors started flying immediately. Obviously, it's a small community. Everyone is up in arms. They're going to be up in arms about any sort of crime taking place. But especially when there are children involved, people are going to feel a certain type of way about it. Unfortunately, people in this area were also a little bit blinded by where they were. So when you think of West Memphis, I want you to remember where Arkansas is. And although I'm terrible at geography, I can tell you that Arkansas fits quite nicely into the Bible Belt.
Bible Belt.
Yeah. It is a small town in the Bible Belt where people are so scared of anything not Christian that any semblance of a difference is not good. It's not good.
Scary, wrong, bad.
It's considered awful. I should also point out, along this line, and we will obviously get into this a little bit more, let's talk about the Satanic Panic for a minute. The Bible Belt is really good at this. They really nailed the panic part of Satanic Panic. Didn't do great on actually linking it to satanic things, but the panic they nailed. They got A+ for panicking.
Yeah.
So,
Panic and pointing fingers.
exactly. So the Satanic Panic, for those of you who kind of have a general idea, but don't really know too much about it, this was a period of time that started in the 1980s and spread into the late 1990s, wherein a lot of crime cases or just unfortunate events in general were blamed on Satanism and the occult simply because they were different, to put it quite plainly. This is where you'll hear a lot of you'll hear reference to Helter Skelter, and you'll hear reference to Charlie Manson, and a lot of baseless accusations, again, because of things that were different that people didn't quite understand.
Mm-hmm.
The situation in West Memphis was no different.
Yeah.
And again, this is 1993. We are right in the time of Satanic Panic. And unfortunately, Robin Hood Hills was an area of West Memphis where there is believed to be some satanic rituals occurring. And again, I know this is a podcast, you can't see me, but I'm putting big air quotes around satanic rituals. So what started people talking about this was the messing of the genitalia of one of the boys. The people in the community, the police especially, latched onto this idea that a purposeful behavior such as this had been supposedly linked in satanic rituals, so it was wholly conceivable that these were occult killings. These were satanic sacrifices because of the mutilation.
And I wanted to add, all of these theories that you're talking about, all these culty, satanic theories, overshadow a lot of the logical ones.
100%.
That are usually presented in true crime cases.
Exactly.
Like, hey, it's usually somebody that the victim
Yes.
knows. It's usually...
So that leads me into exactly where I was going with it. Like, it's... This panic led them to really gloss over the fact that, let's say that this was an area where satanic... Let's suspend our disbelief here. Let's say that, sure,
Done.
there's a satanic cult practicing rituals in Robin Hood Hills. There are no altars in the vicinity. There are no carvings in the trees in the surrounding areas. There are no further sacrifices made anywhere.
No history.
There is
either,
there is no
think,
history
right?
of those things happening in the area.
No burnt candles. No.
There is nothing. Except for a few rumors that if a cult was going to do something, they'd do it in the woods. But again, this idea of the satanic panic was so gripping to Christian communities as a whole that logic was thrown out the window completely. And unfortunately, that led to some fingers being pointed. And like Jamie said, we are no longer looking at logic. We are no longer looking at things that should be happening. We're going to come back to this, but preservation of the crime scene is non-existent.
Gone.
Completely
Awful.
gone. Actual interviews with the people who were closest to the boys, inconceivable to do.
Legal interrogations? You're... Haha, funny. That didn't happen.
No. So, the community and the police are just basing things off of their own freak out. So when...
AKA community bias.
Community bias is very present in this case. And it is this community bias that leads to people starting to come forward with fingers pointed everywhere. And this is where we meet one of the first people that would come to be known as the West Memphis Three. This is where we meet a man named Damien Eccles. Damien Eccles was a dude who, according to the community, fit the idea of a Satanist.
AKA he liked eyeliner and black clothes.
I wish Jamie was, like,
Rock
simplifying
music.
it, but quite literally, he was into a certain kind of music. He was into a certain kind of style. And that really...
He's what you'd call, like, emo nowadays.
Exactly. And I should also point out, before we even get into this, even if he was a Satanist, That's not inherently a negative thing.
That's not proof of anything.
It's not proof of anything. The fact of the matter is, it's a different religion. It is no different in terms of guilt or association with any particular activity than if the person was Jewish, if they were pagan, if they were Christian, if they were Catholic, if they were Protestant, if they were Wiccan. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a religion that someone chooses to believe in. It's not an indication of any crime or any predisposition to a negative behavior. And just because someone is interested in Satanism or interested in the occult does not mean that they are practicing sacrificial activities.
I like learning about it. You like learning about it. That doesn't mean we're going to go slit, like, goats' throats. Like,
I was saying this to my boyfriend the other day. I have a book beside me called Protection Spells for New Witches. Fantastic book. And
just to be safe.
Something that I find interesting, and yeah, just to be safe. The worst case scenario doesn't work, whatever. But if, God forbid, I were to commit a crime that required investigators to look into my bookshelf, that's something that's something that could be pulled out. And if I was in a place that was likely not the 21st century, but also was just in a place like West Memphis, that could be something that's used against me to prove that I was doing something, quote unquote, satanic. So just because people have interests does not mean anything.
God forbid people enjoy
God
things.
forbid a girl has a hobby, okay? And I say girl in the same effect that Damien Eccles could be, you know?
Yes, girl.
Exactly.
Yes, girl, Damien Eccles.
Exactly. But, again, his fingers are pointed because he is different.
It's been described as a modern-day witch hunt.
Very much so. And if you would like more information on witch hunts, you can go listen to our episode on the Salem Witch Trial.
Yes.
But people thought there was something satanic, and they were like, oh, this guy's different. Must be him. We're in a God-fearing community. The thought that there could be someone who was a Satanist was very intimidating. It's important to point out, though, because a lot of these documentaries can be quite biased, I find. As much as we want to believe that there was this injustice, and there absolutely was, it's also important to point out that it wasn't just because people were pointing fingers at him for being different. There was also an eyewitness testimony that was brought forward that named Damien Eccles as a potential suspect. So Damien had a girlfriend whose aunt did not like him.
Why?
Well, her name was Narlene, which...
Yeah, okay.
What the fuck? But anyway, Narlene called the West Memphis police and reported seeing Damien near the crime scene at around 9 p.m. And she said that he was covered in mud, which, if you're dumping bodies in a creek bed, you're going to be covered in mud. Obviously, this could be hearsay. It could be... She could have seen him. It could be pulled out of her ass because she didn't like him. That's something to point out. But...
Yeah.
It's a requirement of the police to take this into account.
Yeah.
This is going to kind of feel like a jump. But speaking of people covered in mud, I'm also going to throw to another potential suspect in the case.
Mr. Bojangles?
Yes. Because while we have this testimony, the police absolutely have to follow up with it. If you have an eyewitness saying that they saw something, whether it's completely credible or not, you need to follow up on the lead. Another very similar lead was Mr. Bojangles. So, an alternate suspect was implied during the beginning of the trial that inevitably was brought forward from this case. Mm-hmm. Workers at a Bojangles restaurant, which is like the most southern thing I can imagine. That sounds like...
Bojangles.
I'm shocked that there's not more of these. But there's a Bojangles restaurant located about a mile from the crime scene, where at about 8:42 p.m., a black male who seemed, quote-unquote, mentally disoriented went into the Bojangles restaurant and then into the ladies' restroom, covered in mud and bleeding. It said that he, brushed himself against the restroom walls, left mud, left blood, but by the time officers responded to the call, the man had left. Police did not follow up on this lead.
Which is crazy.
They lost the blood scrapings that were samples from the wall.
Supposedly lost.
Yeah. So, while they had no problem following up on Damien Eccles, they really shit the bed on following up on this potentially very likely lead. Just saying.
Yeah.
But again, we don't have further information because they did fuck all with it. Back to Damien Eccles. There was a minor deviation there. So yes, they had every right to question Damien Eccles, but they also had the obligation to follow up on every lead that was similar, and they chose not to do that. Yeah. And I'm going to make this very clear. They did not accidentally miss out. They vehemently chose.
Actively decided not to.
This was their omission. Very important to point out. Let's talk about Damien. Not only was Damien a little bit different, but he also had a history of severe mental illness. And this has been super downplayed, which I think is fucked up. It was to the point where he could not work and filed for disability, claiming that he had these psychiatric issues. So Damien Eccles described himself as a homicidal, suicidal, manic depressive schizophrenic, and sociopath. Like his health records, like his mental health analysis is 500 pages long.
He got hallucinations, he got delusions.
He's got, sprinkle a little bit of everything. He's not
check.
doing great. And in 1992, the year before this crime occurred, he was actually sent to a psychiatric hospital by court order. His parents had picked up on his interest in the occult. So again, he wasn't a practicing Satanist, but he did have interest in the occult. Again, in no different way than I have my book of protection spells.
He did believe in magic and stuff too, but not
but
allowed.
Again, an interest in the occult, correlation does not equal causation. But his parents expressed concern with his interest in witchcraft and the devil. And he did have a record of violence in school. But
social outcast.
There was a little moment that was kind of weird where he apparently had a thing for blood. Where apparently he was in detention with some kid, and the kid cut his wrist in detention, and Damien sucked the blood out of his wrist. But you know what? I went to school with some weird kids.
I went to school with a kid who would choke himself until he passed out in math class for fun. Hope you're doing well. I won't name drop him. Hope you're still
Hope
alive.
you're good. Hope you figured out that kink.
I'm sure he has.
But another thing that people didn't like, so they're piling all this information up. Another thing people didn't like is that he had a bunch of tattoos. And specifically, he had evil across his knuckles. And you know what? Again, tattoos do not make a terrible person.
No. He also committed a couple crimes, right? Like minor crimes.
So
Like,
I'm not going to sit back and say that he was a perfect person by any means.
who is?
Exactly.
But it was just stuff like, what, like burglary and vandalism
It
or
was
something?
petty crimes. It was not...
That's also things teenagers do all the time.
Exactly. So that's where I was going to kind of go with it, too. At the time of this murder, Damien Eccles was 18 years old.
Yeah.
He's 18. He's figuring out a lot of shit. And I'm not saying that being young, you can't be held accountable for your actions. Of course, I'm not saying that. But they do stupid shit.
I am a very different person now than I was when I was 18. Like,
The thought of myself at 18 years old makes me want to die.
I'll also say, like, there was this one guy, Jerry Driver. I don't know if Kate will mention him later, but his name is Jerry Driver. He was a juvenile probation officer for the Crittenden County who believed that there was a satanic cult somewhere in the area, and he dealt with Damien Eccles a lot, and he shared his suspicions with the West Memphis police that Eccles was involved with Satanism. So he kind of like put his own bias in there as well, just from his prior dealings with him, where he was in trouble with like the burglary. I think at one point he was in trouble for sexual misconduct. I think it was either him or one of the other guys, Jason Baldwin. One of them had like a shoplifting charge of some sort. But yeah, this guy definitely didn't keep it professional. He definitely was like, yo, this Eccles kid is suspicious. But also, don't sue us. This is not our personal opinions. We are just stating what we found on the World Wide Web.
There's so many things that these detectives pointed out as, like, things that pointed towards Eccles' guilt, especially, that have absolutely nothing to do with the case, ever. And this episode could be 4 hours on just how stupid all of that is. But my personal favorite thing that they pinned on Damien Eccles was that he enjoyed reading Stephen King novels. And that clearly...
Arrest me, officer.
I finished the Green...
Oh, no.
I finished the Green Mile yesterday. So they latched onto the fact that he enjoyed reading Stephen King novels. And clearly that can only mean one thing.
He enjoys good literature.
Yeah, he enjoys one of the most famous authors in the world. Like, what are we doing? So, anyway, again, I could go on for hours about all of the stupid shit that they pointed out. But that one just kind of made me laugh, because I was like, oh, well, arrest me. Seems redundant to say, but based on all of these baseless allegations they had against Damien Eccles, the police basically decided he was guilty. And Steve Jones, the officer that found the bodies, and one of the other officers named James Sudbury, decided that based on his interest in occultism and the fact that supposedly this crime had cult overtones, Eccles... I don't know what just happened there. Eccles was capable of murdering children.
Sure.
There's a big jump there. Well, we're gonna move on because there's so much to do. So much to go over. But obviously, it's the West Memphis 3. So it's clearly not just Eccles that they are incriminating in this case. there were actually 3 men who ended up being convicted of these murders. And that is obviously 18-year-old Damien Eccles and 2 of his friends, 17-year-old Jesse Miskelly and 16-year-old Jason Baldwin. Let's talk about Jesse. Not only was Jesse a child, he was a child with an IQ of 72.
Which, if you didn't know, very low.
Very, very low. And I laugh not because it's funny, but because what the fuck? Like,
the average IQ for, like, normally smart people is between 90 and 109.
yeah. So it's furthermore important to point out that having the IQ of 72 categorized Jesse as borderline intellectual functioning, which means that he was not quite considered special needs, quote unquote, but
just super close.
super, super close. Not capable of typical functioning.
Yeah.
It's also important to point out that he was, again, 17 years old. He was a minor. So despite this, he was questioned with no parents, no guardian present during the interrogation. His father gave permission for him to go with the police, but did not give permission for his son to be questioned. He was, however, questioned for 12 hours. Out of the 12 hours, take a wild guess at how long was recorded.
Hypothetically, 12 hours.
46 minutes.
Now, why would that be?
What the fuck are we doing here? This is where I start to get angry. Legally speaking. And again,
Already
wrong. But also, I'm mad about this. Sure, you can read him his Miranda rights. Everybody's watched fucking Law and Order. Everybody's heard that
you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney.
Anything you say and do can and will be held against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you. You do not have to answer any questions without an attorney present. We've all heard the spiel. With an IQ of 72, Jesse Miskelly could not possibly have given the consent necessary to pass over on his Miranda rights and then further go into a questioning. Especially without a parent or guardian present. Just baseline.
This would never happen on Criminal Minds.
Spencer Reed would never let this happen.
Never.
God. But the reason that we do not allow for things like this to happen should be quite obvious, but in case it's not clicking for you, that's fine. The reason that something like this is not allowed to happen is because police coercion, intimidation, threats, all of these things that can happen. This is why police have body cameras now. This is why interrogations are filmed. Or at the very least audio recorded. This is why there has to be constant proof that things are happening according to like a fair and...
Because then you get things like this that are happening.
Because when you have 46 minutes out of 12 hours recorded with someone who has borderline intellectual functioning and is 17 years old, he is going to be scared out of his mind. And when anyone, let's not even put this in context of a trial or of an interrogation or of anything that has to do with a crime or police or anything. If you look at a child and you put them in a room with an authority figure, they are already intimidated.
I'm intimidated and I'm an adult.
There is already an imbalance of power that happens when you have an individual and a person in a position of authority. You're right, it doesn't even have to be a child. It just so happens that he was. The likelihood that you are going to give leading questions, that you are going to present information in the hopes of getting an answer that you want out of an individual, and the likelihood that someone is going to give up, be so tired, be so scared that they are just going to say whatever you want to hear.
Sure. Yes, whatever.
Exactly. You get to a point where you're like, imagine even on a person.
Because, hey, isn't that also a torture technique?
It is. That does not.
Everybody say it with us now. Police coercion.
So when you are looking at something like that as a psychological phenomenon in the context of a criminal trial or a criminal interrogation, that cannot hold up in a court of law.
No.
That cannot be submitted as anything reasonable. However, Miss Kelly and his subsequent confession after 12 hours of police interrogation is the entire reason that the West Memphis 3 were brought to trial in the first place.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to let that hang in the air for a second. Not just one, multiple different confessions that were brought about by this child with borderline intellectual functioning were the reason that 3 men were accused of brutal murder. Despite the fact this child had an alibi and had no idea what he was talking about.
And also, as of right now, they have no physical evidence or proof of anything.
There is at no point, I'm slamming things now, at no point do the police have any viable physical evidence linking Jesse, Damien, what's the other guy's fucking name? Or Jason. To this crime. Other than they give me a bad vibe. And they're all friends.
It's all circumstantial. I'm sure.
It's all bullshit, is what it is. So, after Miss Kelly's first confession, and again, he gives multiple with different information in each one, police arrested Damien Eccles and they arrested Baldwin. 8 months after his original confession, Miss Kelly made another statement to the police. He ignored his lawyer's advice because, again, he's 17 and has an IQ of 72, ignores this advice of his lawyer saying, hey, stop talking, because he's been coerced by the police so aggressively that he just wants to tell them whatever. He goes into detail about how the boys were abused and murdered. But I want you to think about how coercion happens. So it's not just the police saying, so what do you think happened to the boys? It's, well, do you think this happened with the knife? Do you think that this is...
Would you have done that with the knife?
Do you think this is how this would have felt?
Do you own any knives?
Have you touched a knife before? Like, it's stupid fucking shit.
Guilty. Like,
anyway.
Leading questions.
Let's talk about his confessions. So, he says the murders took place around noon.
Babe, no.
The boy, I will refer back to the beginning of the episode. The boys were last seen at 6:30 p.m. The boys were in school.
That is 1,800 hours for anyone who's
curious
military.
About military time. All of these other incorrect things that couldn't have possibly happened about the case. He then takes back his testimony because his lawyer is like, you are not telling the truth. Stop doing this.
Shut up.
So he takes it back. He's like, no. And his lawyer makes the claim and says he was coerced to say this stuff. He's under pressure. He's scared. Obviously, none of this is factual. And again, he has an alibi. His alibi, not only was he busy, but he was busy in a different town at the time of the murder. He was in a neighboring town at a wrestling match. And there are a multitude of witnesses who were there that night and able to confirm his attendance.
Bruh.
So if you look at the transcript from the little bit of his police interrogation that was recorded, there is so much proof that the police were trying to coax information out of him and feed him what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
But regardless of any of that, I think people really latch on to this idea that he confessed. There is indisputable evidence that even if the other two did it, he wasn't physically there. The boys were murdered between 6:30 and 8 p.m. on May 5th. He was in a different town. But let's talk physical evidence, though, because we were saying there was no physical evidence.
I think we're reading the same thing.
We get to trial, okay? The physical evidence that they try to prove, the only physical evidence that they can give.
Because what do we usually have for physical evidence? A knife, a gun.
Weapon, DNA.
Yeah, I pooped on the crime scene. You picked up my poo-poo.
That would...
I left a shirt there by accident.
That would be... The poop would be a new one. But...
Well...
you never know.
Something of substance.
The physical evidence that was presented when these boys were brought to trial. There were 2 green threads found at the crime scene. 2 pieces of green string that a state witness, not just a state witness, claimed were microscopically similar to a green child's t-shirt found in Damien's sister's closet. And 1 red fiber that was similar to a woman's robe found in Baldwin's home.
Seems guilty.
What the fuck?
What are we talking about?
What are we doing? Like,
that's all y'all got.
Not only is this not clothing that they own, I guarantee if I open my closet right now, I probably have a green shirt, and I know I have a red robe.
I have multiple green shirts, and I don't have a red robe, but I have a red hoodie. Multiple.
It must have been us.
It was me. I'm sorry.
It was me.
I committed the crime 6 years before I was born. My bad.
I got the occult books and the threads in my house.
So do I. I have a Wiccan book. Oh,
man.
This guilty.
Proves nothing. Nothing. I cannot imagine, as a prosecutor, bringing this stuff to trial.
I would be like, guys, go home.
But I cannot imagine standing in front of a jury and genuinely, with your whole heart...
Your Honor, I have a green thread.
I found a string. Okay. Based on his confession, the boys are brought to trial.
Also, Jason Baldwin was a good student. He got great grades, was really talented at drawing and sketching, and his teachers were saying he should study graphic design in college. So the only things that really attached him to this case were that him and Eccles were close friends, and that they bonded over similar tastes in music and fiction, and just cultural things that they both appreciated. So that kind of sucks.
Jesse, Jason, Damien. Despite all being accused of the same crime, Jesse could not have been charged the same way because of his IQ. So Jesse is tried separately under something called, where is it? Under the Bruton Rule.
Wait, what is that? I've never heard of that.
If a confession by a co-defendant was introduced in a joint trial, he doesn't have to be tried in the same... Basically, like, because he was willing to testify against the other two, or, like, confess about the other two being involved, he could be tried differently. Basically. So, I don't know. It's a whole complicated thing. He was tried differently.
Gotcha.
And Damien and Jason were tried together in 1994. All three pleaded not guilty. Because they're not guilty.
I was just gonna say that.
Hate to be that person. During Jesse's trial, there was a professor of sociology that told the jury straight up that it was a classic example of police coercion. And that his confessions were inconsistent, and that there was...
'Cause they were.
like that there was no way that any of this should be in court. Despite this, on February 5th, 1994, Jesse was convicted of 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder, and sentenced to life plus 40 years in prison. Again, based on coercion and no fucking physical evidence. 3 weeks later, Damien and Jason go and have their trial. The prosecution, again, has no fucking physical evidence, and nothing other than the fact that this guy was an emo and the other guy was his friend.
Yep.
On March 19th, 1994, they were found guilty on 3 counts of murder. Jason Baldwin was sentenced to life in prison. Damien Eccles was sentenced to death.
Which is crazy with no, like, physical evidence, like, death row for that.
When I tell you, this case infuriates me so much. So, and again, this is a jury making this thing. So when you sign up for jury duty, or when you're brought to jury duty, you don't sign up for it. Trust me, I would love to get it. I've been begging for it.
You're one of the few people in the world who
want it so bad. But when you are doing your civic duty and being a part of a jury, it should be your understanding, as it is explained to you explicitly, that you do not have to have all of the facts, but the prosecution has to be able to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt
Keyword
that
there.
someone is guilty of what they are being accused of. So again, it's never going to be 100%, but beyond a reasonable doubt. I can tell you without a doubt that this was a miscarriage of justice.
Yeah.
Because there is no way that any of the evidence presented was factual enough beyond a reasonable doubt to even incriminate the boys a little bit.
Yeah.
Let alone to sentence 2 of them to life and 1 of them to death. Very quickly, people started realizing,
this is all wrong.
maybe we fucked up here. Maybe we fucked up here. Maybe there was an issue. Miss Kelly's attorney, Dan Stidham, I don't know how to say it, was one of the first to really speak out about this and be like, hey, what the fuck? So again, we go back to what we were saying before about preservation of the crime scene. Non-existent. The crime scene was trampled over. The bodies had been removed from the water before the coroner got there to examine the scene. They didn't determine the state of rigor mortis. The bodies had been exposed to the elements for long enough that it was completely plausible that other things could have affected it. And this is where I'm going to point out, going back to Christopher Byers. I said at the beginning of the episode that he had bite marks on his body. This and the mutilation really had them latch on to the satanic aspect of this.
Not like there could be any other reasons for those things.
I want to talk about turtles for a second. And again, I'm laughing not because it's funny, but because I'm uncomfortable, and this is so fucking dumb.
Do you mean a tortoise?
No.
No, that's a turtle.
No. The bite marks on his body were almost identical to the bite marks of the turtle species that lived in the creek. It's not unreasonable that these creatures are going to question what it is. And turtles don't have hands. They don't have hands to feel around. They're not going to openly... They're not Franklin. They can't talk.
They don't know.
How do they... They're like infants. What do? They test things with their mouths.
I'll talk about teeth later, too.
Yeah, but the softest tissue that they're going to go for is not arms and legs. It's genitalia. All of the speculation, just like, I don't even know where to start.
I mean, wasn't there also, like, blood that they found at the crime scene that they never tested? Why?
But it's no different than the case of Mr. Bojangles. And the blood that was left there that they supposedly lost. The fact of the matter is...
How do you lose evidence?
The fact of the matter is, how do you fuck up an investigation this bad and still continue to call yourselves a police department? How do you instill confidence in the community when this is what you are doing? Yeah. So, once people started bringing attention to this, once people like Dan started calling out the injustice, people really latched onto it. And that's when we started seeing the media become a shitstorm surrounding this case. This is when people kind of lost their minds calling out the police department, which was fantastic. But also...
You can tell we're passionate about it.
Making it a more of a social justice issue than anything else. Which... My problem here, as we get into this kind of aspect of things, is there absolutely was, again, this miscarriage of justice. There absolutely needed to be something done. However, the insanity of people, or the insanity that came from people like the Dixie Chicks, Johnny Depp. Who were the others that were involved?
That guy from Pearl
Jam. Like, the stuff that came from them really overshadowed the notion that there was still a crime that happened. And something still needed to be solved. The fact that there needed to be justice for these three, the West Memphis three, seem to overshadow the fact that there's 3 little boys that needed justice too. And I think that's where I struggle with this. You know what I mean?
Because,
Like 1,000%, there was not enough evidence to prove, again, beyond a reasonable doubt, that they had anything to do with this case whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Investigate who you're going to investigate. If you have eyewitness accounts, by all means, if you have logical evidence that points you in the direction of a certain individual, go for it. Investigate what you need to.
But what about the victims?
But exactly. There is an injustice here, but the biggest injustice is not who got arrested. It's the 3 8-year-old boys that were brutally murdered. All of this injustice and the media presence, there's movies, like I said, the Paradise Lost movies, there's a bunch of fundraisers that are coming out, and that really brought attention to the things that the police overlooked. More specifically, the suspects that the police overlooked. And the problem being, trying to do this with as little bias as possible, the problem being, there's a few instances that are like, really? This is what we glossed over?
I will probably go over them. I'm thinking least to most suspicious. Perfect. And before even that, I also wanted to add that there was noting that some of the physical evidence that the police brought were stored in paper bags, like from a grocery store. What are you talking about? What do you mean?
That's not how evidence...
No wonder evidence was lost. Like, yeah, it melted. Like, you put it in a paper bag. Okay, anyway. So, the least suspicious of the suspects, because usually I like to go over the different theories. This is essentially the theory portion of the night. The least suspicious, and I'll say it, me personally, is that of Baldwin, Eccles, and Miss Kelly.
Yep.
Out of all of the options, the emo kids didn't really... They've got no physical proof.
It's just... Were they...
No evidence.
Were they weird? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Eccles have some questionable behaviors?
Yeah.
For sure. But
that's not a crime. But another one that we've actually already mentioned was the quote-unquote Mr. Bojangles. He's also known as the red herring of all of the suspects, because why would someone who was smart enough to hog tie boys and didn't have, like, there was no scratch marks or anything, like, they didn't injure...
No, there was no defense wounds.
...the person who hurt them? Yes, exactly. Why would that person who threw bodies in a creek go to a restaurant into the women's ladies' room covered in blood and mud?
Not just any restaurant. Bojangles.
Yeah. And also, like... Yeah, you're drawing attention to yourself. Why would he do that? And on top of that, apparently this unknown man had a cast on one arm. A blue and white cast, which... How are you going to hog tie three children with one arm? You're probably not.
But again, even if it is the red herring, how are you not going to follow up on it?
At least try. At least look into it. But one of the prosecutors in the case argued that it was a complete absurdity to think that the criminals who tried to hide the bodies and the clothes and stuff would enter a public space covered in blood and, like...
It's a complete absurdity that one of them was in a fucking different town, too. So...
I'll be honest, it was probably different crime. Whoever walked into Bojangles, Probably killed somebody else. We don't know.
Still something I'd want to figure out.
Unrelated, but might still
Why
be murder.
is he covered in blood?
Like, I don't know. We have another 2 suspects, actually, who were sort of grouped together. And I don't know if you saw them. You probably did. Chris Morgan and Brian Holland. Also, very circumstantial evidence. They are 2 West Memphis teens who did a lot of drugs and liked alcohol.
Me too.
Too much.
That doesn't mean...
Again, yep, not a reason to... But the suspicion on them was quickly shut down because of how little evidence they had.
Ugh.
It was that they knew all of the victims because one of them drove an ice cream truck around the neighborhood. And in May of 1993, both Chris Morgan and Brian Holland took polygraph tests administered by California police, and they both got, like, notes of deception when they denied involvement in the murders. However, as we know, polygraphs cannot be used in
Polygraphs
court of
are
law.
inadmissible because they don't fucking work. The second that you get a little bit nervous, they're like, lying.
And I'm nervous all the time, so mine would just be
Exactly.
like,
It would be-
she's her name is
No.
not Jamie, she's lying.
Yeah, the baseline questions would be like, I think she's lying about everything.
Yeah, she's not who she
No.
said she is. I'm like, I'm just scared. And then besides that, maybe they were already on drugs during questioning. We don't know. That also skews
100%.
results. They have long histories of drug abuse and alcohol abuse, and the thing that got extra suspicious for them was that they have histories of blackouts and memory lapses, which what you get when you do
Don't
drugs
we
and
all?
alcohol. And I think very flippantly, Chris Morgan said that he might have, quote unquote, killed the victims during a blackout, but then he immediately was like, no, actually, I take that back. Like, I take it
That's
back.
you can tell.
Which, yeah.
Someone is coming down from drugs. He's like, I might have.
Wait, no.
Wait.
I don't know why I said that.
No.
So, that was about as far as those investigations went. A more interesting theory is, and I know you just mentioned him, some people think it's John Mark Byers, the adoptive father of Christopher Mark Byers. And the suspicion from here stems from a knife. Do you know about the knife,
I do know about
Caitlin?
the knife, Jamie.
You
I
know
hadn't
about
bought
the
the
knife. During the filming of the movie Paradise Lost, John Byers, the adoptive father of Christopher, gave a knife to a cameraman who was working on the documentary, and they were like, oh, this looks suspicious because there was a little bit of blood on it. And so they sent it to the West Memphis Police Department. Also, maybe shouldn't have done that because they're not doing a
Clearly,
great
they're
job.
incapable of doing anything.
Yeah. Byers initially claims that the knife had never been used. However, after it proved that there was blood on it, he said, okay, well, maybe I used it once to cut deer meat.
Okay, maybe actually.
And then he was told that the blood matched his and Chris, so his son's blood type. Byers said, I don't know how that got there. Maybe I cut my thumb.
Me.
Further testing of the knife produced inconclusive results about the source of blood, but it was a very small amount. But they were suspicious because both Mark and Chris had the same genotype in the blood. Byers did a polygraph test for Paradise Lost 2, but apparently it was also not accurate because he was under psychoactive prescription medications. Likely story.
Sure.
And then the other suspicious part about him was the teeth imprints, supposedly. The turtle bites / teeth marks. The only thing that drew suspicion about this is that after the convictions, the boys, the Eccles, Miss Kelly, and Baldwin all had their teeth imprints done. And some people speculate, in fear of wanting to see John's teeth imprints, in 1997, John had all of his teeth removed before an imprint could be made. And he said it's because of seizure medication, and it caused periodontal disease. Been there, brother. I got surgery. Maybe it's because he bit the victim and left his teeth marks, and then he decided to take out all his teeth to not get caught. Or it was a turtle.
Or, yeah.
And one other kind of like tiny thing was that an expert saw the autopsy photos and said that it looked like there's an imprint of a belt buckle on the corpse of his son, and Byers said that he'd spanked his son before he disappeared. So I'll let you draw your own conclusions with that.
But you know what? The fact that... Do I believe that he was involved? No. But just there's already more viable evidence to bring him in for more questioning than any of the West Memphis 3 had in the entire case. Just saying.
And if you think that's enough evidence, wait till I talk about this last one.
You want to buckle up for this.
And it'll be very clear when I say it, but I am leaning towards this person as the guilty party. Unless, another one before I get into it, someone random, someone we have not named and we don't know. It could have been completely
unprompted.
Which would suck, and it will probably remain unsolved forever. But I think it's this guy in a non-lawsuity way. Because I got no money, please don't sue me.
He sued the chick from the Dixie Chicks, hey? She didn't even call him out. She was just like, hey, I think maybe we should investigate more. And he was like, this is slander. And she was like, well, I actually didn't name you. This is weird.
So, like, not in my opinion, but this guy seems the most likely. According to the internet.
According to the evidence.
According to the evidence, it sure seems like Terry Hobbs is a likely suspect. And he was the stepfather to Steve, was it?
Yep.
He was the stepfather to Steve Branch. But, so Terry Hobbs, first of all, when I saw documentaries on him in high school, I immediately was like, well, he looks suspicious.
Yeah, honestly,
look at his face.
If you're going to make assumptions based on looks and general bias.
Man's looks like a pedophile serial killer, so I'll say it. So just Google that or go to our Instagram or something.
Was I just on my high horse about not judging a book by its cover? Yes. But this is a book that I'm going to judge by its cover.
But also, sometimes you can just look specifically at men and be like, you're up to no good. I can see it in your eyes. I see the crazy in your face. A hair was found in one of the ligatures used to bind the boys, which is consistent with the DNA of Terry Hobbs.
Like, not just... I'm going to interrupt here. Not just...
Please do.
Like, his hair might have been on one of the boys' clothes. It was tied into the lace.
It was knotted into it. Yeah. Already, red flag number 1. Red flag number 2, another hair was found on a tree stump near the crime scene that was found to be consistent with the DNA of David Jacoby, a friend of Hobbs. Remember how we mentioned earlier? It couldn't have been one person taking down 3 young boys all at once. Well, we're getting into that.
We're getting there.
So, David and Terry, these two pals.
These two buddies.
Terry visited David apparently roughly an hour before the boys disappeared. And I'm jumping back. Terry was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
Long history of admitted assault on his wife. And
His daughter.
His daughter, sexual abuse. Beating
A
children.
neighbor.
A neighbor.
Sorry. I know you're getting into this, but God.
You're good, yeah. And there was people accusing him of making him I don't know how to say it. He would force his son to watch him masturbate and sexually molesting Steve's sister. Amanda says she can't recall this, but
She says
sometimes you black things out.
Her journal entry that they read out was, she said, I feel like I'm the only 19-year-old that doesn't remember 10 years ago. Because I cannot, I will not remember it.
Yeah.
And if the investigators asked anyone who knew Steve how he felt about his stepfather, and they all said that he was terrified of him.
Yeah.
Even Steve's mother said that weeks before Steve was murdered, he had asked his mother to leave Terry.
Seems like a great guy.
Sounds fucking awesome. Definitely wouldn't be the first place I'd look.
No. They also had a neighbor come forward to claim that they had seen Terry with the three boys on the night of the murder, which Terry says, nuh-uh.
Who was
No, I did not.
Who was the last person to see Terry? Or who was the last person to see the boys? Who called them in for supper at 6:30?
Was it not
Was Terry.
Filmmakers also alleged that one of Steve's aunts said that she saw, because I guess this is all hearsay, so it's not court proven,
Whatever.
but she saw Terry doing laundry at like 3 a.m. that night. Now, why would you be doing that if not to maybe clean off mud or blood from your clothes? Stevie, if you will, had a prized pocket knife that he always supposedly carried with him that was later found among Terry Hobbs' possessions. And there was a quote-unquote closely guarded family secret. I wonder what it was, Terry. Could it have been that he killed 3 young boys?
That would be insane.
No, of course not. And then we have some stories from other people. We've got some affidavits signed by Billy Wayne Stewart and Benny Guy. Kaylin, what's an affidavit?
A sworn statement, like a...
To promise pinky promise they're telling the truth.
Unlike what they would have gotten out of... Like, it's not just something they say, like they would have gotten out of Jesse. An affidavit is like, you are swearing on your life. On the Bible.
Yeah. And so, let me see. What these affidavits mentioned was, according to both Stewart and Guy, that Terry Hobbs and David Jacoby,
Probably.
Jacoby makes more sense. Jonathan Jacoby! And 2 teenagers, apparently, from a local trailer park.
Was there a dog, too?
And I would have gotten away with it, too, if it weren't for you meddling
And that
kids.
dang dog.
Dog is Burger. They showed up to a place looking for some pot. Ooh. And Stuart sold the boys pot. And he also noticed that, is it Hobbs or Hopes? Hobbs?
Hobbs.
Hobbs and Jacoby kissing in a pickup truck across the street. And apparently, Jacoby and Hobbs and these two boys drove around smoking pot, drinking alcohol, before they decided to head to the woods. Apparently, this is all here, well, it's all affidavits. The two teenagers went and wrestled outside while the two adult men watched. Ooh, was it wrestling or was it sexual?
Questionable.
We won't get into that.
Yeah, that's very different.
But it's most likely that it all turned very sexual. And apparently the young boys showed up on their bikes. Wrong place, wrong time. And the men were like, oh no, we've been caught. Get 'em.
Get 'em.
And so they
laugh at that.
attacked the kids. It's not funny,
but
Caitlin.
get 'em.
They attacked these children, and, apparently they beat them up, cut one of the boys' genitals, and then killed them because of what they had seen. And then they took the clothes and the bodies and gathered and dragged them into the water and threw their bikes into a bayou. And Stuart claims that he called the West Memphis police to tell them this story, and nobody ever returned his calls.
Knowing what I know about the West Memphis police, I'm not surprised.
They went, nah, it doesn't sound similar.
Nah.
Meanwhile, Benny Guy's affidavit tells a very similar story. He mentions that sort of like the same story, and then Terry becomes really angry and starts kicking one of the boys. Terry hits him in the head and shouts, I'm gonna teach your effing A word. I don't want to swear on here, even though I know I do sometimes. And that the two older men participated in beating up the 8-year-olds. And again, same account, cut one of their genitalia. And Benny Guy sent in a detailed letter to prosecutor Scott Ellington describing the details of these confessions, and then Ellington never responded to him either. On top of these phone calls and emails, Hobbs also was like, hey, David, can you tell the police we were together all afternoon and early evening? Mm-hmm. Even though they weren't. He wanted a little bit of an alibi.
I wonder why.
He also called and made a police report saying that he'd already talked to a cop in the neighborhood. And during the phone call, he said, can we please get the police to meet me at work, not at the house? Why? If your child and multiple children are missing, why would you not wait at your house in case your child comes home? Or anyone.
Exactly. Or anyone.
Why are you going to your wife's work? Like, another thing mentioned was that apparently when they were all searching in the woods, he was trying to get them to change their direction in the way that they were searching, to try and lead them in a different path. And yeah.
It's just
that. Oh, but Hobbs and Jacoby have denied involvement in the murders and have never been named as suspects or arrested in any connection with this case.
So it couldn't be them. They said they didn't do it,
no.
So they're good.
Sure.
But that guy wears black sometimes, so.
But yeah, that guy, Terry, seems innocent.
Yeah, he seems fine.
You know, no.
Are you kidding me?
What do you mean? What
are we doing? What?
If that's not the biggest red flag, I don't know what is.
How does he... what are we doing?
Also, what throws me off was during the trial, they had a cult expert testify that, like, the boys were guilty because of their music collection and clothing being key indicators of satanic cult activity.
No, that's not how that works.
Like, you are missing the plot.
You've lost the plot completely. There's no plot
also,
anymore.
one of the, like, key witnesses, she admitted, like, after the fact that she lied and was coerced by the police as well.
Yeah.
They, like, threatened her, like, to take her child, so she was like, okay, yeah, I saw them do it. They're guilty.
Several witnesses that came forward and were like, no, I lied. Like, fully, they were like, no. One of the key witnesses was another prisoner who was like, no, Damien admitted everything to me. He fully came out and was like, I was on a lot of drugs. He said nothing to me. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
So all of this goes on.
2011 or something, I don't know.
Yeah, so we fast forward to the, like, early, mid-2000s.
Where they've already been in prison for years.
Yeah, 2010. All of the uproar that has come from this case, again, could spend hours going into it even more.
Oh,
All
yeah.
of these celebrities that are backing it, basically everyone who was like, what the fuck are we doing? Rightfully so. They get a retrial. They basically, long story short, take the Alford plea. And what the Alford plea is basically a loophole in the justice system where defendants can say that they do not admit any guilt, but that they understand that the evidence presented cannot be dissuaded, and they understand that the evidence suggests that they did it beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's like saying they're guilty without admitting that they're guilty. And it's something that doesn't get used very often by any means, but can definitely be used. All three take the Alford plea and are released from prison. Fucking insane that the plea deal that they get does not even apologize for how much time they've spent in jail already, doesn't acknowledge whether their convictions were just or unjust, anything regarding their original criminal verdict or their original trial. But taking this plea is basically telling the courts that, or the court is basically telling them that if they just admit that, yeah, maybe they could have been guilty, the courts will let them go based on the time that they've already served. Which is bullshit. I cannot imagine spending that much time in prison for something that I did not do, and the embarrassment and, like, the frustration that would still come from having to take a plea deal instead of the courts giving a fair trial.
I also wanted to add, during their trial, the jury, like, had misconduct, There was a lot of issues in the jury, and nowadays it wouldn't stand. People were talking about the case with other people not in the trial. There was people who admitted after the fact that they talked to attorneys about the trial, which you're not supposed to do if you're on jury duty. Okay. I just thought of that just now.
Nothing about this trial was just in any sense.
No.
To the point where I don't think people actually cared if they were guilty or not anymore. The trial was just so poor. The investigation and the trial were just handled so poorly.
They just wanted to
that
be
it
involved.
completely overshadowed the actual justice that could have come out of this case.
Also, John E. Douglas, a former longtime FBI agent and current criminal profiler. like in Criminal Minds, said that the murders were more indicative of a single murderer intent on degrading and punishing victims than a trio of unsophisticated teenagers. Yeah. Cause it was. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to pop culture it
Go
now?
for it.
I didn't do too much research because there's just so much. But there's lots of documentaries. You got the Paradise Lost. There's multiple Paradise Lost
3
movies. I think, 3. There's Devil's Knot, the true story of the West Memphis 3, which that one's quite interesting because the reporter, Mara Leverett, I think, she wanted to write this book to challenge what the state officials said because they were like, if you give this an honest examination, you will see that these 3 are guilty. And when she did her research and wrote this book, she went, they are beyond, without a doubt, not
they
guilty.
are so not.
Yeah, she was like, they're actually not at all. And that guy from Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder.
That's the guy whose name
He visited Eccles on death row when he was on death row, too, and helped him with music, and he used his fame to spread the message and stuff like that.
I feel like we're really going to get flamed for not remembering Eddie Vedder's name.
Yeah.
Really sorry about that.
There's an album called Free the West Memphis 3 that was released. Organized by Eddie Spaghetti of the band Super Suckers.
Love that.
The
Iconic
album
for
featured
so many reasons.
a number of original songs. About this, you've got songs in rock, hip hop, punk, metal, all mentioning this. It was a very cultural movement, and a lot of the money raised from these sales of these albums were donated as legal funds for the West Memphis 3 for these guys. You've got metalcore's band Zao in 2002. They have Parade of Chaos. There's a track called Free the 3. I wonder what that's about. Disturbed in 2011 released a song just called 3. And 100% of the proceeds were going to the West Memphis 3's benefit and foundation. There's short stories, poems. I think Eccles had like written or like spoken word poetry about it.
He did a lot of like
he's very
artistic expressions of his frustrations and his experiences. For sure.
Yep. Yeah. I think he even made a movie about it as well.
I know he wrote a book.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And again, I'm going to point out, as nice as it is that all of these things are happening, at the end of the day, there's still no justice for these boys. And not the West Memphis 3, the 3 boys that were murdered. There's still no one in jail.
Yeah.
Like, do I think that these boys should be imprisoned for it? Absolutely not. I think there is no doubt in my mind that they should not have been tried, let alone convicted.
Yep.
But somebody killed these kids.
Yep. And they got
100% they got away with it.
And while I feel terrible, because if I was one of those guys who just spent like almost 20 years in jail for something I didn't do, yeah, I'd be angry. I'd want compensation. I would want an apology. I would want a lot of things, which they haven't gotten, which is very unfair.
Absolutely.
But also, if I'm the parent or the sibling of someone who's murdered, like unsolved murder, I'm also thinking, hey, this is unfair.
Exactly. There is no justice for anyone in this case. And
this case remains unsolved, and I think closed to this day. Like, they closed the case, did they not?
knowing how the West Memphis police operate, that wouldn't shock me.
I said, well, I guess we'll never know.
So yeah, like, again, we could go on and on and on even more about all of it, and I think...
I will, if you're
yeah,
wrapping
go for
up.
it. Finish up.
I had
Yeah.
one more statement, not super important, but apparently Damien Eccles inspired Eddie from Stranger Things as the leader of the Hellfire Club, who was a weirdo and outcast, and
Interesting.
people thought he did shady things, so...
There you go. Talk about...
Take a shot. I brought up Stranger Things.
Wasn't me this time.
You take a shot. Talk about Mothman or something, I don't know.
Don't... You can't give me that out.
Or the Titanic.
Well, the spoken word that Eccles did was called The Moth. So...
Oh my god, it was.
Take it.
A man.
A moth. A legend. Anyway.
Okay, now you may wrap up.
At the end of the day, what really should be taken is that lack of justice across the board. And the fact that this is a prime example of how things should not be handled ever by anyone.
Yeah.
I hope to God that the West Memphis police have learned from this bullshit. I doubt it. But it's a big awakening in how things like this, cases like this, are handled. And I think a lot of changes in how the other police departments handle their proceedings came out of this case because they realized they didn't want to follow in the footsteps and make the same mistakes that this police department did. But at the end of the day, there's still 3 boys that have no justice. There's 3 families that got no justice for their children. And as terrible of an experience as this was for the West Memphis 3, they still have their lives at the end of the day.
Luckily, they almost didn't.
These children don't.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to process.
Yeah.
But there we have it. Again, I'm gonna shut up because if I don't, I'm just gonna keep rambling on. So.
Yeah, because we really, it's probably edited down for you guys if you're listening, but we hit the 2-hour mark talking about
Hell
this.
yeah, we did.
Over 2 hours.
Hell yeah, we did. So, all of this to say, if you would like to give your input on the case of the West Memphis 3, we would love to hear it. You can reach out and get in touch with us at our email, which is creepsandcoffee@gmail.com. You can send us a message over on our Instagram or our Twitter at creepsandcoffee. If you would like extra contact and extra fun stuff, we do have our Patreon. If you'd also like to help celebrate the new year with us, that would be a fantastic way to do it. Yeah. Over at our Patreon, which is patreon.com/creepsandcoffee, you can get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the inner workings of our show, and you get access to an extra special bonus episode once a month from yours truly. So again, if you would like to help support the show, check out that stuff. That is patreon.com/creepsandcoffee.
Creepin'
Creeps
podcast.
and talking.
Yeah. Patreon and coffee.
How to make money from podcasts.
From you.
Thank you very much for joining us along this journey.
It's an inside joke, you guys.
Thank you very much for listening. We will see you next time.
Goodbye, love you.
Goodbye, we love you. Bye. Creeps and Coffee is produced and edited by us, Kate and Jane.
Our theme music is Stuck in a Hole by Dated.
For more information on where to find them, check out the link in our show notes. And to connect with us, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Creeps and Coffee.